All right, so as you guys saw in our last video, and if you didn't, you should go look at our last video. We were working on a 2003 Jeep Grand Cherokee, right? Yeah, 2003 Jeep Grand Cherokee. I don't ever remember what I'm working on. I'm already on to the next one. I forgot the last one. But we realized that doing the whole rear axle assembly, plus doing, axle shafts and lower control arms and upper control arm, all that stuff was a lot. So we decided to break this up because we also found that a lot of people had some interesting information on doing these axle shafts and actually the proper way to do them backyard style. Yeah. So this is going to be the backyard proper way to do them that we're going to show you guys here. We split this video up, but this will just show you what we did. This is actually the old axle shaft out of the old axle, but I wanted to have it here as just a display, so I'm not all by myself standing here looking foolish. Essentially, you'll see that what we have to do is remove the collar, and we've got to get this bearing off because underneath all this is a seal. And we've got to change that seal because, well, the old one was leaking. Or the new old one, the used one, whatever one. The one we were putting in was leaking. And to get to all of this, you got to get to that seal, you got to get all of this off. So we're going to show you guys how to do that, what tools you'll need. If you have any questions, please comment below. But welcome to the video as we show you how to do an axle shaft on a Jeep. I believe this was a Dana 35. Not all axles are this way, but some are. And if you come across one of those, this is the backyard way to do that. If you don't have all the fancy doodads and tools, this is how to get it done and how to get it done proper like. So please enjoy the footage, come along with us and have some fun. Welcome to Voodoo Monkey Garage. We're in the process of swapping the rear axle, not just the axle shafts, but the entire rear axle assembly on a Jeep Grand Cherokee, newer flavor, 2000 something. But when we got the junkyard axle, it was both axle seals are leaking, and we can show you guys how to pull the axle shafts out. But we already stripped down the new axle, or the new axle that's going in, and so to do the job right, we're going to go ahead and replace the axle seals before we replace the whole axle assembly. While you're replacing seals, you have to replace the bearings because everything is pressed together all as one happy, slappy little piece here. So I want to show you guys. There's multiple ways to do this. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, but you feel comfortable getting your axle shafts out, I recommend taking it to a shop and they can go ahead and press the old bearings out and press the new ones in because they are a press fit. They don't just slide out. If you want to give a whack at it, I'll show you kind of the backyard way to do it. We have a 20-ton press. And we are going to use it for putting it back together. You don't have to. You can put a ton of work in to put it back together the hard way. We're going to put it back together with the press. But I want to show you how to get these off because they do have a keeper ring and they have the bearing. The race is in the axle, so you'll see how all that comes together. But this keeper ring and the bearing are both pressed on. The crazy thing about the bearing is that it's a caged bearing, right? So the outer cage is obviously not pressed on, but the inner race of the bearing is pressed on. So to get to that can be a little bit fun. So we're going to see how this one goes. We just did another one to verify before we had you guys come on here that my backyard mechanic skills are still up to snuff. So we're going to show you guys how to do this. We've got the axle shaft out. When you have this sitting in the axle housing, just so you know, it's going to be resting in there. There's going to be 4 bolts on the back side. We can show you it going together. You'll have to disassemble everything, get those bolts out, and then you would think the axle would just pop right out. It doesn't. You need a slide hammer or get really creative. We had a slide hammer that actually fits, comes with the attachment to fit over the lugs. You put the lug nuts on, slide hammer, and it pops right out. So you will need a slide hammer to get this out of the axle housing itself, and then you get all of this. So what we're going to do is I noticed that on this backing here, this guy kind of holds everything in. But on this backing, there's one spot that has a notch. So I'm going to go ahead and lay that on the top because we're going to be grinding over here. We should get nowhere near it. But it just gives me a little bit more space when there's not a notch. So find that notch spot, lay it towards the top. You may have a friend to hold this for you if you need to. We're going to see if hopefully we don't. And what we're going to do is we're going to first cut off the ring do your best to not cut into the axle shaft. Sometimes you get a little bit of a notch in the axle shaft. It's not going to hurt as long as you don't go too deep, especially on a Jeep Grand Cherokee that's just on the road. This thing's not rock crawling or anything crazy like that. So let me get the grinder wheel out. We're going to grind that off. And we're just going to cut a notch in here, and I'll show you what we do from there. Oh, and never forget, make sure you got your safety squints and your man hands when you do this. So I think we actually cut that one all the way down to where it popped itself. Oh, maybe not. Nope. Okay, so you see we got a nice notch in there. Yes, we cut into the bearing a little bit. It doesn't matter. We're replacing the bearing. So don't worry about that, okay? Let me see if I can support this a little bit so it's not want to roll around. Then we're just going to take ourselves a little teeny tiny hammer and a teeny tiny chisel. And we're going to set in that notch that we just made. And should only take a couple whacks, and that'll spread out that keeper ring, and it'll slide it right off. All we're trying to do is get it past this space right here, because this is where it's held on. It starts to taper right here. So once that's off, you can go ahead and slide the keeper ring right off, and that's the guy that holds everything together for you. Set that aside, and now we got to tackle this bearing. This is where you might cut into the axle just slightly. Be careful not to if you can avoid it. Really what we want to do is there's a seal right here. We don't care if we cut that because that's getting replaced. There's an under ring right here. We almost don't care if we cut that because that's getting replaced. Right now I just want to cut the bearing off. And I'm going to pull this cage and all these roller bearings out and separate it so we can get down to that lower race. Again, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, take it to a shop. They have all the equipment for the press. I just don't have a piece to get underneath there. I was going to make a piece. If you've got a little machine shop availability, I was going to make a piece that bolted to this whole keeper, then see if we can use that to press everything off. But I don't have that time right now. So we're going to do it the backyard mechanic way. And so I'm just going to try and cut this race now is what I'm going to go for. Or not the race, the bearing cage. So again, kind of the same process. You want to get into that cage. We could probably go a little bit deeper. What I'm watching for is to make sure I don't cut my tone ring. That's one thing you really don't want to cut. That's for your ABS. You don't want to mess with that. But if we can just get down to that cage a little bit, I think we barely, nope, we didn't even nick the axle yet. Perfect. Because we're expert redneck level 27, you know? And then we just want to stick that down in there. Sometimes you might need something else to hold it. We're going to see if we can just get that to come in there. And actually, the screwdriver might even work sometimes. There we go. And we just want to bend that keeper, that cage, and it'll start to bend. Get it up out of the way as best you can, so that all these rollers come out and then this whole cage will just come right off. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. And see how much we can bend this thing and how much of a mess we can make. And we'll get all that out. Make sure you punch your knuckles on those studs. That's always fun. That's how you know you're alive. So we'll get all this out of the way. All your rollers came out. If you want, you can make yourself a little necklace with these. They go all the way through, I think. I don't know, maybe not. Or you can just do the right thing and throw them in the trash. So now we're down to an inner race. This is the fun one to get to. And if you're cutting it off with a cutoff wheel, you might end up putting a little notch into this axle. That's not a huge deal. Remember, we have a keeper sitting here, so that's going to hold everything just fine. our seal is not all the way till down here. So you might see that we cut into the axle just a little bit, but I want to get enough of a notch in here that we can use a chisel to start separating the steel and just get this to at least come loose enough that it'll spin. The last one we did, I just put a notch and then I actually hit the chisel at an angle and it spun that keeper enough to get a pair of pliers on it. So we'll see if we can get that, see how clean we can do this. I don't know. I'm not too worried about cutting that seal again, and if I cut a little bit into this, I'm not worried. I just don't want to hit that tone ring. You can see I'm getting into the axle just a little bit. That's not a huge deal. I know some of you guys are like, you can't do that! Watch me. It's gonna be okay, I promise you guys. It'll be just fine. It's not gonna hurt anything. I might need Drew to hold this. See if we can get this to move, because I want to hit this one at an angle. Let's see if we can get this ring to move. Hit it like a man! Dang it! May not be enough of a cut. Just try not to go to that axle too much. The last one came right off, Drew. And if you can't get it, you may have to get a Dremel to get a little bit smaller piece in there. That should be enough. I don't know why it's not. This one's just a really good one, I guess. Starting to rotate. Alright guys, I'm going to play with this one a little bit, but you may have to bang on it, you might have to cut it some more, but just play around with it. It'll come off. It's just going to be a little bit of work, but I do need Drew's hands, so he's got to stop recording for a minute, but we'll show you once we get this apart what it looks like. Alright, so what I did is I had Drew come down here and hold the axle this way because I was actually started hitting it here. You've got a ridge along here, so once I got it to spin a little bit, I knew it was free. We have a ridge right here. I just stuck the chisel right on that area and just smacked it, saw it start to move, and then we were hoping to show you guys the last whack, but you get the point. It's off of there. All right, so that's just the bearing race, the inner race for the bearing. Your new bearing will have that all completely built in with the cage and everything. So that comes off. Your seal comes off. Pay attention to the orientation of it. So seal comes off. And if you're one of like me where you forget, take it off and set it down the way you pulled it off. Right? Like that's easy enough. And then this little keeper guy comes off. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go and clean this up real quick. You don't need to see that, but do the job right. Spend a little bit of moment and clean this up. Just some brake cleaner and a rag will get all this schmutz off of here. We're gonna clean some of this up real quick and we'll be good. You will see here somewhere Bueller. Right there. We got a little bit of a cut into the axle, but really, I mean, it's like fingernail deep. It's not bad. So it's not going to hurt, guys. Don't go gouging halfway into the axle. You just got to get enough of a notch in there, bang it enough to get that metal to just spread just a little bit, and then you can force it off of there. So we're going to clean this up, and we'll show you it all going back together. All right, so we just took a quick break. We had a young guy come over. It was kind of fun. He was just absolutely loving it. We showed him all the cars and Oscar out front. If you guys have been following me for a while, you'll know Oscar. And that was like the creme de la creme for him, man. We fired up Oscar and let him honk the horn. And he was equally scared and excited. So, like every kid. But the smile from ear to ear, getting to climb up in the rock crawler, stand on the hood of a car, like get up in a monster truck, get up in a semi-truck, like, you know, for him a monster truck, right? Like, not for us, but you know what I mean. Anywho, so we took a break from that. But while we took a break, I found out that this Jeep that I'm working on is a 2003 Jeep Grand Cherokee with the Dana 35 rear axle pieces. So I wanted to clarify that, because what I want to share with you guys is the seals and the parts that we're going to get. So this seal that goes for the inside, right behind the bearing and everything, I think they call it an outer oil seal, is going to be the PT2146 replacement for 16747. So this will be the seal that goes on the inner side of the axle on the 2003. I don't know what years it crosses over to. Again, remember our orientation. This cups out or towards the axle splines. We'll slide that guy down and it just fits right over that. Okay, so that's going to go over that guy. Then we have the bearing, which is going to be an A49 bearing. It will come looking a little bit different, just be aware. The race, the outer collar, and the bearing, these will all separate, but it'll feel like it's all together, but it's together with grease. And actually I put my other one in a vise and it kind of just pinched out a little bit and everything just fell apart. It almost doesn't matter because the race is going out anyways. So if you have it here, your thin collar is going to go on the backing plate. Your race, outer race, will be facing the splines. So you want your bearing, if you have it all apart, your bearing is going to taper towards the splines. So that guy's going to come down and just slide right there. And in that kit, it comes with the new keeper. So I'll have that. And oh, by the way, oh God, well, come off. One of the other things you can tell on a bearing too is you can see how this side's got a little bit of a roll to it, and this side is squared off. That also tells you, because you have a little bit of a roll right here, so it also helps to kind of remind you of the orientation as well, because that cupping right there will sit down in that ridge. So if you're forgetting and because you cut the other one all apart and you got distracted by a little kid that came over and wanted to climb on your cars and you forgot, that's one of the things that'll help you remember that too. There's grease inside of here, it'll help it slide. So we'll just go ahead and stick that down on there. The keeper, well, it can go either way. It doesn't really care. And neither do I, for that matter. So we'll just stack it like that. So backing plate or holder plate, seal, bearing, the race will come off later. It'll work itself off of there eventually, but I'm going to leave it on there. And then the keeper. One of the other things I forgot to mention that we did also do is when this was all together, I measured from the bottom side of the keeper up to the end of the axle shaft, and I put that in my brain. The other one I had actually written it down, but we took that measurement to see where we were at, and I have promptly forgotten what that was. So if you want to do that, you can. I had written the other one on the actual axle itself. It was 27 1/4 on that side. This side was, come on Drew, I know you know it, it was 1.5 inches longer, so 28 1/4, 29 1/4, something like that. I don't remember. It was longer. I didn't write it down because I also realized this bearing is going to get pressed all the way down anyways. But if you want to double, triple check, you can take that measurement, and when you're done pressing this all together, you can check that measurement. The other side turned out perfecto. One of the other things I have is this piece of pipe. I just had used this on the Toyota axles that we did. I ground this down already. But what I found was this guy actually fits onto that guy, and it's not going to slide off. So it gives me a great pressing point. So I'm not pressing directly on the collar. I actually can press against this, which takes some of that strain off and allows this to be able to fold or manipulate instead of that. So I'm going to stack that like that. We're going to go into the press, and I'll show you what we're doing here. We're just going to flip the axle over. We're going to stick the shaft down here into the press, and we'll just rest it on this block here. I used the whatever they're called, triangle cutouts. And we're going to rest it on the block and just center it under the press. I got myself just a little spacer so we're not having to pump for days. And it also kind of straddles the gap on that axle. And we're going to press it that way. Center everything up. And then we're going to go ahead and come over here and just press it all down. And usually I like to do this with 2 people, but we're going to see if I can just do it. Just because I like somebody else to be watching what's going on. You know, eyeballs. See if things are going wrong, you know. But we can also hear it. We can see it. Well, that just threw me off for a minute. I'm like, everything's upside down. Crap. So, come down here, we'll press it, and you'll see the axle's already starting to slide into the bearing. Could make a little bit of noise because that axle shaft has got some like little ribbing on it. But as long as you see it moving, then we're doing it right. And this is pretty much what they're going to do in a shop. So it's going to get a little bit harder because we're pushing both pieces now. Oh, that was fun. Perfect. All right. Let's see if that'll stay back up there again. It's okay if all that falls. It's not really a huge deal. I think we just push past a ridge with the other collar. It looked violent. It looked scary. It's fine. So we're going to bring it all the way down until it touches. And then I'll put a little bit of extra tension on it just to make sure it's seated all the way. And we'll bring it back out of there. And there you have it. If you did things right, you should be completely pressed. And you'll have your new bearing and everything pressed in there. Yes, this will come off. It's just going to take a little bit of work because it's been sitting in there with the grease. But that race will come off. This will hold everything together. That seal is going to shift around on you a little bit. That's fine. When you bolt this back in, it'll hold that seal into place. And everything will spin perfectly as it should. And everything will be happy. You've protected everything. And you now have your axle shaft all pressed together. All by yourselfers. Well done. Alright, so I want to show you guys how to pull the inner races out, because we've got the new bearings pressed on. They came with the new outer races actually, which these outer races will sit in there. They are mated to your bearing. You don't want to use old races with the new bearing. So these should be stuck in there. I saw another guy on another video and he was like, mine just came right out. It's like, well, then you have a problem with your housing or you have the wrong race, because they shouldn't be in there like super tight, but they should be in there. Like, so anyways, got a slide hammer here. It comes with this little adapter with this little hooky doodabber, and we're just gonna stick it right on the edge of that, hopefully. And it doesn't take a lot. We're gonna come to the top side, so it's gonna barely touch it until you get it out more, and it'll come right out. So you could probably get a hook and play with it and stuff like that. If you don't have a slide hammer, go down to your local Smiley's or Vato Zone. They rent them out. You'll need it to get the axle shafts out anyways. So while you have it, use both tools and get your races out. We'll make sure we clean all this up real quick. I'm actually not going to put these axle shafts back in until I have the axle mounted back up in the Jeep, because well, we're swapping out the axle and it's a lot lighter this way and a lot easier to put everything together when it's on the car. Sort of. It might be a little bit easier with it down here, but I don't have it set up on a proper table. It's sitting here on Guido and it's sliding around like crazy. So I think I'm just going to put everything back together when we're up there so that I can do some whatever I need to do and make some noise and be dangerous, like, you know, without being dangerous. You know what I mean. All right. That's how you get the inner races out, or I guess technically the outer race out. And we'll get all cleaned up and prepared. I'm also going to take the other one apart because the backing plates, when I got these backing plates, are completely destroyed. I can sit here and hammer them out, straighten them out, and do all that. I don't want to. So we're going to take the good from both of these and make one really good factory looking axle. So, yep, you don't need to watch me cleaning all this stuff. You'll see it when we're done and going back up and in. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. Hopefully you got to learn something about how to do one of these. Yeah, we forgot to record this when we were doing it, so you get this moment on a different day now. But that doesn't matter to you because it all looks like the same video, but still the same shaft from the beginning. Not the one that was in the video. We appreciate you guys. Make sure that you jump right down below here and subscribe. Make sure you follow the socials down there in the description somewhere. And most of all, share this. Let other people know we exist. Leave a comment. Say hi. Do something. I mean, let us know you're here, okay? We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming along on the ride with us. And I'll stop poking at you with this thing. Dink, dink. Anywho, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Love y'all. Well, this is just junk. This is just garbage and trash. I guess we can kind of tear it down to make it smaller pieces, and we don't need any of this anymore, do we? Throw it away! Throw it to the ocean! Use it for a boat anchor. It's got a Y on it. That might dig into this thing. Maybe just smash it? I don't know. Is there something fun we can make with this? Or is that just another project that Brandon's never gonna do?
Correct.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is just like tear it down, throw it in the trash can. The recycle bin, gotta recycle. Here in Arizona, all that goes to the same hole. So it doesn't matter. But I might keep these though. These actually have a use. Their shafts are good. The housing's good. But it's a Dana 35 and that's, nobody wants one of those. I don't know, maybe we'll put it on Face Marketplace for like $20. Call one of the scrapper guys or something and say, hey, come get it. But I say we just get it out of our lives and don't deal with it. Because we're going to deal with like 4,000 people to get $20. Might need this though to pump some of them upside the head when they show up and they're like, I'll give you 5. Okay. I would have paid you to take it. Anyway, junk. This was days ago. Why is this even still here? Maybe it'll fit the Ford. We'll pull the engine out of the Ford and put the axle in its place. Might make it hard for it to go vroom, but they can go yabba dabba doo style. We'll put some pedals. Get rid of the engine. Greatest fuel economy ever. It's gonna be huge, amazing. Yep. Or maybe we'll mount it at that airplane. You need a Dana 35? Huh? No? He doesn't get it either. Scrap this thing. Junk!